All right, man, there we go. We are live with Chef Sedrick Crawley from Black Sicilian Pizza Company out in Maryland. Salute to you, Chef. Thank you for coming on the show. Got a chance to meet back in Vegas last month. And as soon as it's like you meet somebody for the first time, but it feels like you know them already. Like when I met you, I felt like, all right, we need to hurry up and make this happen because this my guy right here.
No
How you
doubt.
doing? How you doing today, Chef?
Fantastic. Just, ready to go. Always on the hunt for something new to do. And I appreciate this opportunity to be on your platform and talk to the fans, the people, and let them know, what's going on with us. We just love what we do. We excited about being in this field, working with fantastic legends like Tony Gemignani and Enzo Coachio, just to name a few. But it's just a new path every day that we learn it in the pizza community. It's only fair that we link up, like you said, when we paired up at a Pizza Expo on the Humbles, like, yo, let's make this rock. So yeah, I saw your podcast scrolling through on TikTok one day or Instagram. I was like, oh, what's this? And here we are. So I'm super excited, man. Thank you. Like I said, thank you.
Yeah, no, same here. And I've seen all of your content, and I love the stuff that you put out on Instagram. Look, and we could just get right into it. You don't see a lot of folks that look like you and look like me
Agreed.
making pizza, especially making pizza at a high level like you do yourself. And you've been trained. This isn't just like something that you just decided to do one day. You took the time and you've been training. To your point, you worked with some of the greats and pioneers in this business. How did that happen for you?
It was a blessing, an opportunity that was given to me. I've been a chef for about, let's say, 20 plus years. I worked at Michelin star restaurants. I've been on Food Network. I worked with Martha Stewart, Guy Fieri, just to name a few, Carla Hall. I've done my deans in the culinary world. And while working at Georgetown University in DC, I had an opportunity to work for an oven company called Marifoni, which I'm sure people are
Yeah,
familiar with. They wanted me to come on board and run their culinary program for an operation called Pizza University.
yeah,
And I knew nothing about pizza. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I had the chef training and skills on that side, but I knew nothing about pizza. And I was really hesitant on taking the opportunity because I don't like to do something that I don't know how or have no clue until I learned that that's the right way to approach things, and we could deal with that later. But I jumped out with both feet and landed into this opportunity working with world renowned pizza champions and pizza chefs and pizziolas from Italy, like guys that's been in this their whole lives. And, I call them my capos, because they taught me, the art of four simple ingredients: flour, water, salt, yeast,
yes.
how to combine those and, make a platform where you could build a reputation, hence Black Sicilian Pizza Company. So, the opportunity came to me. I was prayed about it, wise enough to accept the challenge. And, these guys molded me with, I'm talking about, different styles. So where you say Sicilian style, Neapolitan style, New York style, Detroit style, grandma, all these styles to me are regular because this was something that was done daily in my discipline, working with these guys at this institution
From day one, you were working through all the different
from
styles.
day one. And shout out to my dude, Leo Spizziri, who many people know as he has a podcast and he does different things. He has the Pizza Garage, but
Yeah.
he was the one that first taught me how to combine flour and water. And a funny story is I was watching YouTube the day before, and I was trying to pick up tips, about what to do and how to do. And he came up on the channel, right? So I'm watching him. I'm like, okay, this dude is cool. Like he breaks it down real simple. I can understand it. He's basic. The next day, he was at Pizza University. I couldn't believe it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I just watched it yesterday on YouTube. So we hit it off from the gate, and he took me to the kitchen, put me under his wing, and he showed me the art form, which is called pizza. And from that, I worked with John Arena, is a
Mm,
legend.
yeah, great guy.
Worked with Tony Gemignani, who is the GOAT, as we know. like, hands down.
No questions.
He put me under his wing, and these guys taught me the secrets, and I found it very, very, very different than the culinary world because I've worked with top chefs and big dogs, big names in the culinary community, but these guys won't teach you their secrets, right? They'll always hold back because they don't want that competition. They don't want that smoke. Like, I train this next dude coming up under me, unless you working for them necessarily, right? Like,
Yeah.
under their brand. But in the pizza community, it's totally different. These guys will show you the secret sauce because in the pizza world, it's room for everyone, right? And they want you to succeed.
Yes.
And I found that very, very good, for lack of a better word, for me, because these guys, like I say, I tease people and say, oh, I was abused for 3 or 4 years by the Italians, but it was good abuse because I didn't have any bad habits to unlearn. Like I said, I knew nothing about pizza, and these guys just ripped me up, boy. And
Yeah.
I only found it right, since I am a creator, to kind of pay homage to the Italian style in my culture, and that's where Black Sicilian was born. And you know,
Hey,
they,
that's
they,
and that's an
that's
incredible way to start. I mean, from watching Chef Leo on YouTube
right.
to working shoulder to shoulder with him the very next day.
Yeah.
If that's not fate, I don't know. I don't know what is.
I mean, that's the way I looked at it, and that's how I received it. And I've been on that journey ever since, and that's how I met most of these guys, being in the right place at the right time. Shout out to Tony Gemignani, my guy who was I was helping him at Pizza Expo, doing his demos. But I was in Atlantic City at, they used to do a convention, Atlantic City. I forgot the name of it. It was like a pizza expo, like a kind of a mini pizza expo, right?
Okay.
And I was in my room chilling, and it was nothing going on. So I was like, let me go down, and grab a drink at the bar real quick, come back in because I had an early morning the next day, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going down. I see Tony Gemignani at the bar. I did not know him at all, right? But I knew of him because, the people I work for, I always ask, like, who's the biggest dude in the pizza community? And they was like, Tony Gemignani. I didn't know who he was. I never heard of him because, that's not my world.
Right.
So I looked him up, saw a picture. I studied him, like, okay, who's this guy? I was like, oh, this guy is, the real
He's
deal.
the
He's,
real good.
he's doing it. He's about it. I saw him, right? I walked up to him, I was like, hey, introduce myself. I was like, yeah, I'm at Pizza University. He's like, oh, yeah, we got a class coming over there. Boom. We just start talking, start hitting it off. And this is before I had created, or actually started Black Sicilian. I was tinkering around with the name, but I was a little nervous about using it, right? Because I didn't want to offend anyone on the Italian side, and I didn't want it to be like, this, like, what is this, right? So I was like, let me take the opportunity to talk to, somebody that has wisdom and ask them about, this situation. So he gave me a story about one of his brands that he built from a strange story. And son, when I tell you that changed my life, like, I went down and called one of my boys, like, yo, the name of the company is Black Sicilian. That's it. I don't care what nobody blah blah blah. That's it. It's not, it's not even open for conversation. I was done, because he had gave me such a fantastic story about how he built one of his brands from a naysayer, and he said was, as long as you producing what you want and it means something to you, he's like, you can call it whatever you want, as long as you stand behind that brand. And that
Yeah.
was it. That was like, he gave me the nod to do what I need to do, and we've been running hard ever since.
I imagine and I love that he gave it that blessing because I think what we learned over time is that what matters is what happens when they open that box, right? And when they
Yes.
when they take that first bite, or when they interact with you and meet you and talk to the chef,
Oh yeah.
those things start to matter so
Oh yeah.
much more. And I love the name because it speaks to who you are.
It
You know,
was, like I say, it was a thought process. I wanted to combine both cultures, and you know, as a segue here, when I first started, and you see my content, most people, see my content. In case the viewers that don't know, I like to do hip hop music with me making pizza or in the pizza world and
right.
pizza business, right? That's kind of my thing. And when I first started doing it, I had one of my bosses approach me and this is probably over, it's got to be over like 4 years ago now, right? And he was like, "Why do you do that? Like, why do you use music when you make it pizza?" Like, no one was really doing it like that, right? It was
Right.
always just, pizza, instruction, or, talking. It was never really like a urban feel, right?
Uh-huh.
And me, I come from the hip hop community. And I was like, for me, I gotta feel this. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to just be talking or making a pizza like here's the calling show, which is great. But I was like, that's not me. I need something that is kind of, you know, built for speed, right?
Yeah.
And I started just doing music, artists that I like, Jay-Z, Kanye, and they would have bars or lines that would resonate with what I was doing. And, I would, do my edits or whatever. And to now it's, nothing. I could just, drop it in a few seconds and it's dope.
Do you are you riding in a car, you hear something, you like, "Oh, I'm doing a video to this."
Yeah, that's basically how it
You hear
is,
you hear a
and
line and you're like,
yeah,
"Okay, I already know where this
and
is going."
I either work earlier and I'm doing something, or I'll watch old video or something. I'll be like, oh, you know what? I could put this, and it's really for me because it keeps me going. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? That's what I was really doing it for. Because when you doing something that not a lot of peers are around you, a lot of support, that's your team, your people,
Mhm.
you kind of sometimes get a little, sidetracked. Like, is this the right thing? Is this, I would compare it to like, when African Americans got into baseball, or when they got into certain things and it wasn't a lot of us.
Right.
I had to get something that made me feel comfortable doing it while I was doing it. And, that was kind of the soundtrack for that system. But, years later, here it is, and people are like, oh, I love what you're doing, like, and to me, it's fun. It's a lot of fun, first of all, because
Yeah.
I get to act, crazy, not be this serious professional that I am in my, teaching and mentoring classes. But I just kind of get to have fun with it, and it's music that I care about and love. So you get to see both passions,
Yeah.
and we kind of wrap that up into the Black Sicilian brand too. Is you're not just buying pizza, you're buying into a slice of culture. That's how, we say it, right? So when you step into our world, you learn or you're dealing with hip hop, you learn about swag, you learn about, products, you learn about how to combine marketing with food and promotion to make it look like, okay, I want that. Like some of the videos are very crispy. A lot of the food looks great, but we tailor it like that. We just don't shoot anything. And
Right.
fortunately, the years I've had as working as a chef, working with certain other individuals, we were at that caliber, right? It was like, you know, like one of the restaurants I worked with was called the Blue Duck Tavern. It's like a Michelin star restaurant, right? And it's an open kitchen. So when you come in a restaurant, you see us. We were on stage automatically. So I come from that environment of like either show out or go home,
Right.
and I just brought that over into the pizza world. And it seems to be working, for the most part, it seems to be working unless I hear otherwise. But I'm just having a great time doing it. And let me stop talking so you can ask me.
No, the more you talk, the easier my job because look, I'm chill. I like that you talk about your roots in fine dining and the time that you spent there and making that transition from, those Michelin star kitchens into doing, into doing what you're doing now with Black Sicilian and even, the teaching and the culinary program at Pizza U. What part of it was harder than you thought going into?
I could say nothing was really hard. I had to accept, or I had to believe in what I was doing to continue, right? The training wasn't hard. It was just being consistent. The discipline had already been acquired from being in the culinary world, right? And by the way, most of the PTOs that I work with have the same regimen and discipline of chefs that I work with.
Yeah.
Like Tony Gemignani is up before everybody else and sleep after everybody else. I mean, I'm in my kitchen at 5 a.m. He would be there before. I'm like, yo, this dude is killing me. Like he's, and he doesn't have to be,
Yeah.
because he's
He's
there,
the big
right?
dog. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's there, hands on, seeing everything, and his team is wonderful. He's built an excellent culture, in his business. But back to the question, I didn't find anything hard except things where I got in my own way, right? I caused my own obstacles. Like, I would have difficulty picking up this principle or this concept because I was making it more difficult than what it needed to be. With pizza, you don't have to overthink it if you got the fundamentals down. Now, if you don't have the fundamentals and you roll out, then you're gonna make mistakes and then you're gonna try to figure out what you did. But working with cats like John Arena, Leo, and you know, most of those guys, if you get the fundamentals, the rest of it is just building on top, whatever you want to do. So in most of my classes, I teach one of the basic codes that you should learn on how to make pizza, which is baker's percentage, right?
Meaning
If you
what?
learn baker's percentage, which is a small system of scaling flour, salt, water, and yeast, you can build any recipe you want, right? There's no more looking up recipes on the internet or, oh, I found this recipe and it's not working for you. You can build it for the environment you're in. Like you're in Tampa, right?
Right.
So my pizza recipe is going to be different in Tampa than it would in Maryland because of the climate,
Right.
because of humidity, because of weather, right? Everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I can't build that recipe and I take a recipe from Maryland and come to Tampa to try to work with it, I'm going to catch all type of, craziness. Dough's overproofing. This is too moist. It's just like, what are we doing? So when I say fundamentals, I mean the root of where we start at, not just saying, okay, I have excellent ingredients. Ingredients are the second tier, but the foundation is learning how to build that dough formula so it's going to work in the environment that you're in.
You might be one of the first people, people on this show to take it to that level because everyone talks about, I have the best ingredients. We do that. And that's kind of like commonplace in our business now where premium is kind of taking the forefront. But you're the first to say, the ingredients come secondary to the process.
Sure. Yeah. Because it all starts with the dough, right?
Yeah.
They call me in nicknames, they call me Dr. Dough, because I care about the product that's coming out of my bowl. That's the first step. If this isn't right, then the rest of it doesn't count. And I've had pizzas where to the regular person, this is great. To me, I'm like, no, that's not it. The flop is there. It's not crispy. And because that's how I was trained, right? John Arena doesn't mess around. He's got a 6-day fermentation process on his Sicilians. Tony doesn't mess around. He does all the styles, Neapolitan, New York, Detroit, Sicilian, in one restaurant, right? So these guys aren't like,
They're not cutting any
just figuring
corners.
out. Right. They high operate. And that's where I came from, that school. So for me to say, oh, I've got a grande cheese and a Stanislaus tomato sauce, that's all well and fine. But it all starts with the flour, salt, yeast, water. And keep in mind, I only said 4 ingredients, right?
Yeah, where's the
Some
salt and the
people,
sugar at? Hold
people
on.
use sugar. But if you understand the process, and we'll talk about it a little bit, I'm only using sugar not for flavor and not to improve yeast fermentation, but to add caramelization or color to my dough. But if I use the right flour to begin with, which contains malt, right? Now I'm gonna get a browning agent when I have a deck oven. For Neapolitan, I need no sugar because I have an open flame that's coloring that dough. So these are the principles that's very basic from the world that I come from. So when I see an operator doing something like this and that, first thing I assess what they're doing just so I understand fully. But then I make suggestions because everybody doesn't want to play at this level. Some people, like I say, some people want to make pizza, but everybody's not a pizza maker.
Right.
So I consider myself a pizza maker, right? And that's the business I'm in, pizza making, not making pizza. Domino's makes pizza, which is great. Not knocking them. They're the number one seller in the world, sure. But as you see the trend coming, the independents are starting to come back to fruition, right? Because people are
Strong.
saying like, yeah, I need a dough that's fermented at least 3 days, or I need something special about it.
I don't
Shout
want
out
no
to
bleach. I don't
Anthony
want bleach
Malgeri.
and bromade and all this, and all
Right.
it's catching on.
Yeah, right. Anthony Malgeri in New York from Una Pizzeria. They call him the Pizza Pope. I met him in Vegas one year, working with a company called Fieri. And he's still fighting himself about using certain type of yeast and not using yeast, natural starters. He's a pizza maker. And these are the battles that we get up every day with of how to make the process better, so you have an experience that's not like down the street or across the country. It's unique to our situation.
Yeah.
Just like Nike or Kanye or Jay, it's about dropping that thing and hopefully we've achieved that at this level.
How do you keep pushing yourself to get better in that process?
2 indicators. One would be I gauge myself against the big boys, right? I see what John's doing. I see what Tony's doing. And then the community that I'm feeding, right? What their feedback is, what they're thinking, what they're telling me. And also my personal instinct as a chef, what I think about it. If the process is becoming boring, you know, as a chef, most of us have, ADHD. We don't follow recipes. We hate to read. Yeah, I'm talking about real chefs,
Yeah.
We hate to read. We feel, we smell, sense, and most chefs that operate at a high caliber don't have to taste their food to know it's on point because they've been doing it so long. They know this. Unlike baking, where baking is a science, right? You need 13 grams of yeast. If you go 15, it's going to get a different reaction. You need, 500 grams of water. If you got 520, you're going to get a different reaction. So that's more of an exact science
Yeah.
versus cooking. So I paired both of those together and it works well for me, man.
It's exact standards, for your dough and for your base, and then feel for what happens on.
And I'm passionate about it. And, sometimes people get upset, because I'll tell you now, I love to brag while I'm cooking, or baking. I'll be like, yo, do Michael Jordan not talk smack? Like, come on. When I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm so humble, and no, but this is in a joking manner. But
Yeah.
you gotta have. This is what keeps you going in the kitchen. And when I came up in a Michelin kitchen, these chefs used to rip me. First of all, it was what kind of knives you have. Secondly, are you clocking in to work or you coming to learn the art? If your shift starts at 3, these guys were there at 11 a.m. Not on the clock because they cared about the craft that they were in, right? So I learned all those things, early and brought them over to the pizza world with me. So I like to talk a lot of smack while I'm working, having a good time. But you're going to see a great show and you're going to get an excellent product each time. And I stand behind that. So, that's one of the reasons we love what we do.
Tell us about Black Sicilian as a business and what you do, what you offer, and how the public, interacts and receives that product.
So Black Sicilian Pizza Company currently is a ghost kitchen. We deliver via Uber Eats and DoorDash. We do a set limited number of pies each day because we will not sell anything under a 3-day fermentation process. So 3 days and better. Sometimes it's 5 days, sometimes it's 4, but we normally sell out. We do about 100, 120 pies a day.
Okay.
We're closed Mondays and Tuesdays, and we do high-end gourmet pizza. So one of the names on my pizza is called the Birkin, right? Similar to the Birkin bag. What we did was take high-end Italian brands and build them into pizzas, right? So they've got mozzarella, truffle oil, different things like that. It's hard for me to remember the exact menu because I'm always building pizzas.
Yeah.
But if you take a look at blacksicilian.com, you'll see some of the pies that we build. The Louis, the Louboutin, the Chanel number 5. What else? We just thought of high-end brands that we could combine and, deliver an excellent pie. It seemed to catch on with the community, right? They were like, oh, what is this? And we get orders are placed, people pick up, they deliver. Hold on 1 second, that's my daughter. Lex, I'm on a podcast, baby.
What's up, Lex?
She'll come in here. But this is something that, we built out of passion, right? We wanted to be different than, pepperoni and cheese and let me get, mushroom and spinach. We wanted to give it a little swag because that's what the culture of BSPC is about. What else? Hey, baby, come say hi to the people. This is my daughter.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the Pizza King podcast.
Thanks.
You're gonna be all over the world now.
Okay. So we are in the process of trying to obtain a brick and mortar.
Okay.
One of the challenges is figuring out the right location. Also, if we want to be around other pizzerias or we want to be, away from pizzerias. And that's the part that I'm struggling with now, right? It's like, how do you, make yourself look different? And are you worried about the competition?
Right.
But that's the only way to really stay on top is to be around other players that's in the game, right? You can go up to an island and be delusional like, oh, we the best, but because there's nobody else around. So you dulling your knife. But if you got, a pizza place down the street and one around the corner, you got to be on top all the time. You putting out nothing but quality if you want to do your numbers. So that's something we're looking at right now.
Okay.
We pride ourselves on operating small, being efficient, and just delivering excellence. But I learned something from the Pizza Pope in New York. It's not always about volume, right? Like most pizza makers want to do, 300-400 pies a day, right? And that's great and all. And I'm sure we'll have our time for that. But, he sells maybe 125 pies a day, and then they're done.
Yeah.
And he's got a line wrapped around the corner.
Every day.
Right? Every day. There's a reason for that, right? FOMO is real. I learned that by accident. We had sold out our first couple of days opening, and I was like, oh man, we sold out. But I had more people calling me about placing orders for the next day, and I was like, ooh, this is like, and I compared it to like when you get those limited brand of sneakers, right? They only make 82 pair. You got like 400 people outside trying to get that 82, right?
Every time.
Because it's limited. And I was like, there's something to learn here. There's something here. So we kept it like that, and it's been working for us. And that way we don't burn ourselves out and put out a subpar product, right? I would never sell a product that I just made that day. Like I say, I'm not I don't make pizza.
You don't make
I'm a
pizza. You don't,
maker, right?
yeah, I think that's, the difference between the folks who are really in it, perfecting the craft and taking it to the next level versus, the investor, right? The person that's trying to turn a quick buck. And I think there's room and there's space for both, obviously.
Sure, of course.
And I think, one supports the other. But I totally understand the difference in what you're saying and saying there. Right. What is it? How did you decide what, and you have to, kind of clue me in. What exactly is the style that is it more Neapolitan style, or is it,
okay,
or you doing all styles? Is it something unique?
The first style that we chose was New York style.
Okay.
Wanted to be widely accepted in the community that we were in. Two, it was great for a delivery platform.
Right.
Neapolitan style would probably be the least favorable for delivery.
Doesn't deliver well at all. Yeah.
It doesn't. So when we open a brick and mortar, Neapolitan will only be available in-house, in the store. Because that's the best way to eat it, right? It's right there in the store. We developed a formula with using different flour that we made a Neapolitan that was deliverable, and it held up well. But it's something I didn't want to do because it wasn't AVPN regulated.
Okay.
Which anybody in the pizza community, well, not anybody, most people know is pretty much the pizza mafia when it comes to Neapolitan.
When it comes to Neapolitan style, you need to be certified.
And that's the only style that you need to be certified in, technically. I mean, they have certification for New York, but the AVPN is, you can't call yourself Neapolitan and you doing, above 60% hydration and using an off-brand flour and not using traditional ingredients like a fresh yeast, So they're very
size, ingredients, processes all matter when it comes to AVP,
which most people don't care about. But like I say, when you're in the business, these are the things you get to brag about. It's like, we are certified. We do the technique.
Those are the stripes on the shoulder.
Yes.
In this game.
So we picked New York style because it was best. We do an 18-inch pizza. No flop. We pride ourselves on having, an excellent crust, at least a 3-day fermentation. So we make the dough bulk cold fermentation for at least 3 days. And then we go about our process. We hand stretch everything, at least at this level right now. Hopefully once we scale, things will change. We are a big fan of automation.
Right.
So we're not opposed to using dough machines like dough ballers. Um, Fiero makes a stretching machine. We're not opposed to using things like that. It's just at this level, there's no need to because we're doing such small numbers.
Yeah.
We also love the conveyor pizza machine, which
Yeah.
is, it's about skill, right? So everybody's not gonna be like me. Everyone's not gonna sleep, breathe, and eat pizza, and dream pizza, and bleed pizza. Some people just want to come work their eight, escape, like we call. So you got to make the process simple for them.
Right.
So these type of machines do that: conveyors and dough stretchers and dough ballers. So the process isn't over tedious, and they work 3 weeks and then they leave. You put all this training, and somebody's like, "No, I'm gonna go work at Target." And
Working a
stop.
deck oven is not just something you wake up knowing how to do. There's a
No,
art form to that too, right?
it is. It most definitely is. And I partner with a group called Women in Pizza. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of women making pizza. Because women, to me, women chefs put a lot more passion and drive behind it than male chefs, and I'm one of them, right? But I've worked with them, I've seen them keep that commitment. We'll get in there, we'll do our thing. After 5 hours, it's like, all right, it's about time for me to slide out. They doing their thing, and they putting that. It's like, that's why they mothers, right? They nurture what they have. So
Right.
I love training young ladies, females, how to be PCOLAs, and, learning that art form and, just embracing it, even with the chef part of it too. That's one of the things that I learned about being in the pizza community. Most PCOs are not chefs. They can make a bang pizza, but they don't get the cooking science game. And
Yeah.
that's something I had like a dual-edged sword for.
Is
So I've
that
worked with some of the.
intentional though? You feel like, because I've always like, no, I'm not a chef. I'm a pizza guy.
Mhm.
Is that why do pizza guys kind of shy away from that discipline? In your
Because
opinion?
it's a lot more thought process in the searing a steak or sous vide an octopus or, frying chicken, right? Or
Mhm.
making a sauce for chicken or, marinating shrimp or making buttermilk pancakes. Like you got all of these things, right? When you can just throw your art into, making a perfect crust and the perfect pizza and a cornichon that's, got air pockets in it and, focus on that and, hand slicing your own pepperoni or shredding your own cheese, they rather invest in that, which I totally understand. You can make your own mozzarella fresh. It's not like I can harvest my own steaks unless I had, a cow farm. So I get that. I'm just fortunate to wear both gloves and, have done both things. I've been a chef longer than a pizziola. So, when I wear my chef hat, like this past weekend, I did an event in someone's home and I had a good time because it was fun. Of course, they wanted pizza and they had a, regular home oven gas range. And, to me, that's the ultimate sin. Like, why would I cook a pizza in this gas? Yeah, it's so crazy once you play with the big toys. I did an event in somebody's home and they had like the 18-inch Gosney. And I did a video. I'm like, yo, guys, I'm working on a Gosney oven. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, normally that's good, but
Oh, you
you
got Bill. Don't get bougie now.
right. I know. I watched my sauce. I can't believe I just said that. Like it should be a privilege to work, but I've
I
worked,
understand.
on the big boys, Neapolitan oven straight from, Italy, and I've played with the big toys, and it's like, yeah, okay, I'm working on a Kazi, like, no, I shouldn't be doing it, but no, in all jest, it's all good. But it's good to have both practices, and I've had some of my mentors and chefs ask me about, the food side of it, like said, I want to sort a recipe, for these chicken wings I want to do for the restaurant. Or, and I was amazed, like, oh, oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I can help them, great. Sure, because I've been exposed to it for so long, I didn't seen it all, as far as cooking.
Well, it really gives you different layers to your mentoring and to your teaching. And when I ran into you in Vegas, you were actually helping out a fellow who was in competition. You were kind of giving us some last minute pointers as he finished up his test bakes. What has inspired you to expand on that part of who you are as a leader? I mean, from coaching and teaching and helping other folks develop their products and businesses.
Just seeing the growth and one of my guys that I train, his name is Robert Reynolds. He's always at the events, and we ran into each other in Vegas, and he calls me his coach, his capo, and you never think you're gonna hear that, especially in the pizza community. As a chef, I've had the fortune of being on Food Network and understand the whole casting process. So I've brought in other people under that platform and seen them go on do Hell's Kitchen and things of that nature. And they always refer back to me like I worked with Sed and he helped me understand the process. And you never see yourself as being that guy, but you enjoy seeing the results.
Yeah.
These young ladies and young men appreciate what they're doing and excel. And, now they're teaching individuals. And, I had an opportunity to run a culinary school for a little while in my career, working with chefs that were older than me, actually chefs that taught me when I was in culinary school, kind of full circle, right? And I always just had an appreciation for what their contribution was and an understanding to, how to make them happy, how to give back to that community, and also how to promote their classes so that we sold more, right? In the regular community, people look at us as, champions and titans and these guys that have fun. So it's only natural that you have culinary games, right? Things like Chopped and,
Master Chef, stuff like that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think, so we would break that down and, kind of do that at the corporate level, bring in companies like Marriott or Prudential or Navy Federal and, break these guys into teams and, do culinary battles and they would have a ball. And this thing blew up quick, it was doing very well. And now I'm in the pizza world where one of the last events I did was with a company and we did what we call Pizza Wars, right? I know my girl, Nicole, the Dragon Chef, she has a brand called Pizza Wars. There's a couple different Pizza Wars out there, but we would do this in the kitchen. I bring in teams and you're going to be tasked at making, this kind of pizza. We'll do a tutorial up front to show them what to do. We've got people helping and coaching, but at the end, you had to present your best pizza. And it was judged by, 3 people. And at the end, it was a winner. I was a big hit. I think they're probably still doing it at Pizza University.
Yeah.
But people like to compete, right? But if you can make it in a format where it's standardized for them, they'll join in and they'll pay good money to do it. So I've always been a creator. Years ago, I was in the music business. I worked at a record company in New York and worked with different artists like Too Short and Petey Pablo and Mystical and what's the name of that group? NSYNC and Britney Spears, little groups like that.
Yeah.
So I always had a creative side. And when I got into the food business, I kind of kept that cap, right? And I was able to use it just for different opportunities. And here we are now, dealing with Black Sicilian. And I use the same type of, energy and fun just to do the things that we do.
You got music playing in the kitchen when you're cooking?
Of course. Now, when I'm chefing, I must say, and I get teased about this a lot, I like to play Michael Bublé, right?
Michael
That's kind of my
Bublé,
thing.
more classical. Is that like classical?
It kind of like a crooner, almost like Frank Sinatra, but it sets me in that tone of just being very detailed, right? Now, when I'm rocking Black Seal on the tables, it's either Kanye or Jay, maybe a little Davies. I mean, don't even get me started on Wu-Tang. I come from the roots. That's my era.
Yo, Dave East played a great Method Man on that Wu-Tang show.
He did.
I really wasn't listening to Dave East, and then I saw him play Meth, and then I'm like, okay, I like Dave East a lot now.
See that whole thing come full because, I was there when Wu-Tang first launched. Like, bang. Like, who are these guys? And people was like, what is this? To see them inducted into the Hall of Fame now, it's like, yo, there's nothing we can't do if we just stay focused and know what our purpose is. So, looking at those inspirations, I just try to keep the same mantra and say, you know what? BSPC, Black Sicilian Pizza Company, has a purpose. We just got to stay on course, and do what we do and have fun with it.
Do you get?
That's the main thing. Because once you stop having fun,
yeah, then it's just a job, and
that's
then it's never worth it. No job is worth what the pay. It's just never. It never worked. It never is. Do you get a lot of young, black, aspiring pizza makers reaching out to you for advice?
Not yet.
Are you hoping to change that? I don't see I mean, I'm starting to maybe a little bit, we're starting to get a little bit more, but still, I think still to this day, there's a lot of folks that look at it and say they didn't even really know that this was a lane that we could go play in.
Right. I haven't got any young black aspiring pizza makers. I get pizza makers, Italians, young, white kids that, are hip, and some corporations that want to jump into the pizza business. I recently linked up with one of my childhood friends who's got a brand in Newark, New Jersey, and he's going to add a pizza arm onto it. And I'm consulting with them now. And, they're African American black. And that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, in a few years to see it blossom, because some people are still discovering the pizza community. One of my good friends and, chef mentors, Carla Hall, she recently started doing some pizza things, or, a couple of episodes with pizza. I was able to train someone like Brian Baltaggio, one of Volt Brothers, who's a top chef, on, how to make pizza.
Okay.
Wally Dufresne, one of my culinary heroes, recently jumped into pizza and has a successful spot in New York. So you see the chefs from the culinary world starting to trickle over into the pizza world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling them, like, yo, I'm here. I've been here for a minute, dog. You know what I mean? You can come rock the tables with us. We'll show you. Because sometimes people look at me like, oh, they don't really understand that my background comes from, 13-time Guinness Book World Champion holders, world pizza champs, dudes that's got, over, 100 store restaurants and chain, it's like I'm deep in the game, and my science part of it is official. Like you said, we deal with the dough first. So it's not gonna be like, all right, let's have fun and use, some gold leaf flake. And no, we're gonna deal with fundamentals. So if you build a system, it's gonna be sustainable and it's gonna be successful. And once they start talking to me, this kind of just blends in, but then they just don't see this black guy that looks cool and ultra magnetic, and says, okay, he really does understand the science behind the business.
Yeah.
And, can give them some good business acumen too, because, I've learned through trial and error what to do and what not to do. Like some people that's opening a pizza restaurant want to start with 10 pizzas, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's too much. That's very ambitious. Why don't we start with 5 or 4? And once we nail those down, then we can grow. You can always grow up, but it looks terrible if you start with 10, then you scale it down to 6. It's like, what happened? Like, why am I going to go there? They don't even do that no more. So that's one little tidbit I give people out the gate, because, everybody want to do everything. And, that's not necessarily the way to handle it, in my opinion.
I understand. You've been I see that you've been offering like classes for children and for adults. What's that part of it like, teaching somebody how to do pizzas in their own home? Like, well, they come to your class and then I'm guessing they go home and they can, execute on their own.
Yeah.
Now from your point, flour, water, yeast, and
So,
salt
yeah.
to something that they're proud of in the kitchen. How does that work for you? How's that make you feel?
You got to break a lot of old habits that they have, and a lot of the old wives' tales and myths of pizza, right? And, oh, we use sugar, or, I don't scale my flour. I just put water in it until, it comes together. Okay, if that's working for you, it's fantastic. But to me, that's a little bit of, nonsense. And when it comes to being a teacher, people say I'm a little strict, but if you look at any coach, right, or look at, entertainers' parents, Beyonce, the Jacksons, they weren't the nicest people, but look at the result, right?
Yeah.
And got superstars, right? One of my favorite coaches is Bill Belichick. And, people call him an asshole, but this asshole, has got 7, 8, Super Bowl rings, and, he got snubbed for the Hall of Fame, but we know that was personal reasons, but he's done his job.
Yeah.
Right? Excellent coach. Look at his products, Brady, just to name one, So when I get in the kitchen with them, depending on what they're booking me for, if it's for a fun event, then we keep it very light and friendly. If it's for a consultation, like they want to start a pizza business, then we go in, you know, boots to the ground. Like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but this is the correct technique. If you look up these people, you'll see why they're successful and been in the business. Like John Arena, been in the business 50 plus years. He's forgotten more about pizza than most of us ever know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when, you know, he grabbed my hands and showed me how to do things and how to knead and how to flip and use yeast and, you know, all of these processes, that's something you hold on to and you don't forget because that's not coming back across the board again. You know, that's institutional knowledge that he passed on to me. And I try to pass it on to other individuals. So some people accept it well. Some people, you know, say, okay, you know, I'm going to try my method, but they always end up coming back. That's the funny part to me. There's a part that Thanos says in, you know, the Avengers, like, you know, you always guys did all of that just to come back to me. And I've seen it, you know. I've got a guy that I'm consulting now. He has a big restaurant. And you know, I made some suggestions to them. You know, they wanted to chat GPT, this and that. You know, they don't want to pay the fee. They don't want, cool, brother. You know what? That's fine. Who's getting texts now every day about, oh, this and oh, that? I'm like, well, I was trying to tell you.
Try to tell you from the beginning.
I'm trying to tell you, this is not something that you could just look at and go replicate, right? You got to be hands-on with this. You got to feel and see the process. You know, it's not like I could watch videos and go be a great pizza maker, right? Somebody's got to say, you know what? I see where you're going. Let me show you how to really do this, you know? Which I was very fortunate. That's what happened to me. These guys said, okay, Sed, come on, we got you, you know? And the rest is history. But, you know, if you can accept to get out your own way, which is what I've done in the kitchen with these guys, you know, like one of my real quick stories, you know, I thought I knew something about yeast, right? So I took fresh yeast. This is early in my career, you know, when I first started making pizza, before I knew anything. I took fresh yeast and put it in the freezer, like, oh, I'll preserve it. So one of the number 2 pizza makers in the world comes to the school, right? He's like, you got any yeast? And I pulled out the freezer, like, yeah, here we go. Yo, he looks at me like,
what did you just do?
Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Why
Like,
is this guy here?
Giving me this? This is dead. I was like, nah, you could preserve these. It's got water. You freeze it. He was like, Sonny, let me tell you that once you put yeast in the freezer, it is gone. And I'll never forget that moment. I'm writing a small book called 25 Kilos, and it talks about these stories, right? And when I learned that lesson, you know, he sees me now and he laughs like Sed. I'll be like, I don't do it no more, I swear. When I get around these guys, they make me feel like, you know, this because they're giants, which is, you know, the only way it should be. But, you know, little mistakes like that is how you learn of what not to do. Coming in with a big head like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And I learned there, like, Sed, just shut your mouth, look at what they're doing, and pay attention. And that was my attitude from that day on. I think that was like the 3rd day I was there. And I said, this was good for me because I go in like, yeah, we're going to do it like this. All right, cool. And I was like, ooh, he just schooled me so bad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do nothing now except pay attention. And I'm glad that happened. You know, everything's for a reason. So.
Well, it gives you that chance to listen and learn and take away something that you didn't have before.
Yes. So, you know, I tell people like, you know, this is not a negotiation. I'm trying to instruct you. This is not like, you know, you're giving me your opinion about what happens because I actually know. Once you make pizza for like 5,000 people, then we can have conversations. If you make it at home for the family, I really don't want to listen to what you have to say. I can always learn some. That's not what I'm saying. You know, maybe you got a secret sauce or the way you grind cheese or how you put on tomato.
But that's not going to take you to the next level.
Right. This is about next level, you know, building a platform so you could exist and make money off of it. You know, that's the arena that we have.
Yeah, I heard that. You built something real nice there, man. And I can appreciate that. I love that you have been intentional about honoring both the Italian culture and the Black culture, you know, through your brand and through the way you teach and the way that you communicate. Man, that's admirable. I really appreciate that. I respect that so much.
Thank you.
And there's so many crossovers as I'm listening to you. There's so many crossovers between, you know, the pizza game and sports and music and just being a professional in general, where when it all comes back to discipline and it all comes back to understanding processes and honoring what came before you and pushing it to the next level. You are doing that.
Okay.
You're doing the hell out of that. So appreciate that.
Well,
How does somebody connect with you if they want to work with you, if they want to get some consultation, or if they're in the DC area and they want to get some pizza? What's the best way to connect?
one, I'm on blacksicilian.com. That's my website. You can always Google Chef Sed. That's 2 D's for double dose.
Double dose.
That's my professional title. Chef Sed, like
Okay.
Sedric is my name. So we just call Chef Sed. And, I love Wu-Tang. I love Chef Raekwon. I was like, I'm going to be Chef Sed. Yay. And it just stuck after all these years, right? But, you know, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok and Facebook under Chef Sed or, Black Sicilian. I'm easy to find. And, I love to connect with anyone that is willing to learn or just want to have events or even work at certain events. Like I got a big event coming up in June at the Volvo manufacturing plant for about 1,000, and we're going to be doing about 1,000 pizzas. So I'm putting together a team. We got the trailer done. I'm going to do some, live footage there. But even that in itself is a process of getting ready for that, right? Because one thing as a chef you learn early is, especially if you've been on TV, you never want to look bad.
Right.
You always want to look like, yo, we came to win,
Yeah.
So preparation is something that a lot of people don't see before the event, but we spend 90% preparation, 10% execution because we ready. So that's something I would pass on to any individuals that's also getting in the game. Is if you prepare yourself, if you do your mise, like we got the term mise en place, you get everything together, the rest is just having a good time, and that's execution.
Man, I love it. That's a great lesson. Lastly, before we let you go, what advice would you give somebody who's looking to get into the game, they're looking to start a brand, or even just looking to learn more? Like, where would you tell them to start first?
Start from a place where you're going to be excited about doing this thing every day. Build something that is fun to you and interesting to other people, right? Something that's going to tell your story, something that's very personable to you, right? Something that you can explain, people see the passion in it, and don't necessarily worry about where it's going to go. Just live it, right? And it will grow itself. I've seen Black Sicilian come from a name into a pizza business, into a community, into a brand, right? And it's nothing I planned, but I just got up every day and said, okay, I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to try this, and you can write it down on a business plan and it might not work, but if you get up intentionally and have a purpose, it'll come together and you be like, wow, how did we get here? So that's the advice I would give to any, entrepreneur, someone that's looking to start something, is just make it fun for you so that you're having a good time. You have experience in what you're doing, but you're also learning at the same time.
Yes.
And just go out there and get it. Don't waste time trying to figure it out. Just go drop it, and see where it takes you. Because the best way, I said it earlier and I didn't segue back to it, the best way to learn is failing, because then you learn what not to do.
Right.
And you make those mistakes and say, oh, what? That didn't work? Okay, now we're going to do it like this. And once you get your system, it's like, okay, you know what? Nobody didn't tell us. We figured it out. We put it together. It worked. That's it. Then you drive it.
Yeah.
You drive it and nobody can stop you. So that's the intel I would give.
Hey, that's great advice right there. Chef Sed, I really appreciate you. This has been great. I could probably talk to you all day, but my kids just came in and my house is about to get loud, real loud.
I heard that. I gotta cook for the fam and all that too. Yes, sir.
So we definitely got to do this again sometime. I'm going to take on the challenge of figuring out how to do more live stuff, and I would love to have you come back and do some live stuff with me, whether it be on YouTube or Facebook, Instagram.
Anytime, brother.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna reach out because I want to learn a little bit more about teaching some classes and kind of getting some things going. So I got some. I've been listening to your story and kind of trying to draw some parallels. So I'm gonna reach out personally.
I'm gonna call it early. Next year in Vegas, we're gonna do something together out there.
Say it. Whatever you want to do, I'm in. I'm down. I'll be there.
We're gonna do something out there. I guarantee you.
Yes, sir. Hey, that's a word right there. So hang on for a second. I'm gonna hit stop and make sure we get this loaded up.